the ladies that are left are so old. Now you're trying to invite me somewhere, bitch. Bring the congressional thing to me,
Listen,
or I don't fucking want it.
I ain't leaving my living room.
No.
You know what it takes to walk up some stairs? Shit.
No, you better FedEx that motherfucker straight to my door.
Shoot. Ooh, wait. No.
Listen.
Listen.
Wait.
I hate you for that.
Let me fix it.
You know, Francesca, they say a lot of my voice on the... The side eye and the scoff.
Delon, what is this voice?
I don't.
It's like sexy.
Listen, he books one voiceover job.
I know. I just feel like it was a little try hard. You were like trying to be, like alluring and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Him whispering in your ear, and you're like, my ear is wet from your mouth. Please back up.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, and don't take this personally, but I like a little sugar in the tank. Like I like you.
Girl, I got some of that for your ass too.
Not too much. You know you can't. I need you solidly in the middle.
She said, I got these soft teeth. I can't be having no sugar like that.
Yeah, don't go all the way. I need you. You know what I mean? Just give me like a dangly earring. You know what I mean? Like.
She said, I just want one. Why is that the style? It is one dangly earring for any man.
I dated a man that wore a dangly earring, and it was a little gay, and I liked it. It was very hot.
It was stylish, and you know what? I hear you because you know what it is. It's giving a little Rufio from Hook. That's the second time I mentioned.
Yes.
It's like a little feather hanging out of his ear.
It's a feather. Yes, it's like, listen, if I'm gonna date a man, I want one who looks like he could be the victim of a hate crime. Just like I feel a little safer. Just you know what I mean? Don't give me a man. Give me a hanger.
Yeah.
Like that's what I need.
Really, because with a man, you never know what the fuck's gonna happen. So back up.
Hey girl, I just feel a little, and that's you, Delon.
I am. I feel
like I'm always little holding out hope that you and I might still get together. I don't know.
The older we get, the more hope there is.
Hello, and welcome back to Let Me Fix It, the podcast that says he may be a thorn in your artistic side, a rock in your storytelling shoe, but Tyler Perry clearly ain't going nowhere. I'm Francesca Ramsey. I'm an actress, producer, writer, and graphic designer.
And I'm Delon Grand. I'm an actor, singer, photographer, and a writer, and sometimes an educator. Class, I don't know if you pay attention to these reviews on RottenTomatoes.com, but the film we are talking about this week has critics giving it a 54% on the tomato meter, which I guess means it's rotten. I didn't know that.
Like 50% is not fresh.
Well, that's so crazy to me because I think 50% is above the midpoint, but evidently you have to have.
Are you drinking some 50% fresh milk?
Listen, if you're actually drinking like cow milk, something's wrong with you anyway. But
yes, yeah. We're not doing no titty milk over here. I'm only doing almond. Okay,
right? Almond, cashew, right?
Yeah, but if we were talking about a cow, 50% would not cut it.
You're right. If we're talking about food that's rotten or not, 50% is not a place where you want to risk, where I'm trying to risk. Right?
Exactly.
But I guess over 60% means that the review is fresh or that the movie is good. But there's this thing called the popcorn meter, which is the audience reviewing metric. And this film is the audience is giving it a 72%. So,
well, I don't trust the audience. The audience is not smart.
Right? There could be paper in the audience with that.
Yeah.
So, which group is right? Right. Today we are tackling the 6888, which is Tyler Perry's World War II drama about the only all-black female battalion in the war. Now, Fran, I wonder how much of this audience rating is reflective of the fact that the movie is based on a true, somewhat unknown story.
Oh, that is a good point. I'm going to say 100% of it. Class, some of this film's plot points seemed so overdramatic and romanticized that we had to do some fact checking. The backbone of this film is that as an all black, all female battalion answered the call to serve in the war, and they not only faced racism here at home, but the dangers of the war in Europe and sexism and misogyny in the armed services. Now, what's crazy, but not shocking, okay, this is America after all, is that their battalion of over 800 soldiers were not recognized for their service until, wait for it, 2022,
Insane.
when they were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal.
What is the standard? Like who? How?
I don't.
Like I got no words. What is the standard for a congressional medal? Like everyone who goes over or serves in the armed services, aside from the check, should be given a medal. Thank you so very much.
I kind of feel like it's almost fucked up to start giving out like prizes for war. Like you did the thing and you came back alive.
That.
Like it's almost at this point, it's like not a participation trophy, but like, why are we ranking who did the best? Like that's fucked up. And honestly, if I were these ladies, I'm glad that they were recognized. I'd be like, fuck y'all. How long did it take y'all?
I mean,
Absolutely
I
not.
could do the math. What's something was 80 years? World War II was in what 45? Like
And
that's
these
crazy.
the ladies that are left are so old. Now you're trying to invite me somewhere, bitch. Bring the congressional thing to me,
Listen,
or I don't fucking want it.
I ain't leaving my living room.
No.
You know what it takes to walk up some stairs? Shit.
No, you better FedEx that motherfucker straight to my door.
Shoot. So, class, what happened? Why do critics seem to hate it, yet audiences love it? How did this riveting story go from a buried historical treasure to an unearthed artistic Kubrick zirconia? First, we'll unpack some of the true events, compare them with the film, and then do what we do best here on the pod, and each picks how we would fix it. So let's dive in. This is the 6888. Let me fix it. Cat.
Okay, strap in, class. This movie requires a bit of a history lesson. So, throughout World War II, there was an open question about what role Black female soldiers could play in the war, or what role the United States would allow them to play. So, for context, there were about 140,000 soldiers in the Women's Army Corps, WAC, during World War II. Of those 6,500, less than 5% were Black. Now, due to soldier shortage during the end of the war, 17 million pieces of mail went undelivered to soldiers, which was affecting morale. Now, this was so interesting to me because, again, we are so spoiled. When I put something in the mail, it just fucking gets there. Like, I don't think about the logistics.
I mean, sometimes the mailman will be at the door at like 6 p.m. and I'm like, you still going? I was like, damn, you've been working all day.
Oh, and here's the thing. And I will say, I've lived in this building for like 5 years, and the mail is very consistent. But every once in a while, I'll get a piece of mail for like a neighbor, or something of my mail won't get in my box, and I'll be so fucking annoyed. And then, like, when I watched this movie, I was like, oh gotcha, oh right, somebody has to like physically pick through,
Sort.
and figure out where the shit is going. I mean, it just truly, like, I felt so dumb. So back to the story here. At the same time, civil rights activist Mary McLeod Bethune, played by Oprah Winfrey in the film, which Oprah, at this point, you're too famous.
Way
Oprah,
too famous.
You can't be, because you're just Oprah. You're just
Right.
Oprah in the movie. Okay?
You are a one named woman.
Literally. Okay. So she was lobbying with her close friend, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, to find a role for Black women in the war overseas. Enter Battalion 6888, which would become the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. That is a fucking mouthful.
It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. So the 6888 Battalion would be, again, the only all Black, all-female unit that the Army deployed during World War II. Let's just give a moment for that.
And the fact that it took us this long to find out
To
about
fucking
them.
know about
I didn't know
it.
about this.
I mean, well, you know, he who controls the story has the power, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's crazy. So this unit was led by Army Major Charity Adams, who's played by Kerry Washington in the film. Major Adams and her battalion were given 6 months to sort and deliver this backlogged 17 million pieces of mail, which were sitting in these hangars in Birmingham, England. It only took them 90 days. Go ahead, okay?
Insane.
These women had to create their own index card system for sorting the mail. They worked in 3 different shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sorted about 6,500 pieces of mail a day.
65,000 pieces.
Excuse me, 65. They sorted 65,000 pieces of mail a day. Now, some of this may seem a little fantastical, but it is all true, which gives even more, like, makes me question Tyler Perry's artistic liberties that he takes in the film even more.
Yeah. That is a great segue, because while we were surprised to learn how much of the film honors these women's story, Tyler Perry's script does water down some of this stuff into these very two-dimensional archetypal characters at times, which seems to be like his speciality. You know, Tyler's not giving you a well-rounded anything.
No, he's giving you an 8 by 11 sheet of paper, you know?
No, he's giving you, hey girl! Like, just it's just so
I'm from the South.
It's just so over the top. And let's just start, you know, right from the top. The film's lead character, Lena Derricott, played by Ebony Obsidian. What a great fucking
name. I had to look her up. I was like, I liked her. Did she change Obsidian? Because Ebony Obsidian is, you know, they're both
it's very on the nose, but it's cool.
Yeah, but it's cute.
It's very cute. So Lena and her white love interest Abram declare their love for one another just before he departs to join the war. Abram unfortunately dies in one of his first combat missions, and when Lena is notified, she joins the Women's Army Corps in response. However, you're not sure if she thinks she can find him or if his death and the Army simply give her an excuse to do something with her life. Now, Delon, the other thing about this is we meet him and he dies. I mean, they have 3 scenes together.
Yes.
That show us how in love they are, and it's unclear because he's really pursuing her, and she's kind of like, I'm not really, I don't know. About it. She's so lukewarm about it, and then like the next scene, he's dead, and she's upset. I'm sorry to laugh. It's so fast, and I get it on the one hand, because I gotta be honest, I don't remember how long the film was, but
it was like 2 hours.
Okay, well then that kind of pisses me off now in hindsight, because I feel like they could have given that. They should have given that more, because granted how it inspires her throughout the film, I just didn't really buy that they were in love, and I didn't care. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know who those black ladies at her house were. I didn't know what was happening.
I know. Listen, we always do this class. We get to the fix early, but we can't help ourselves because this is what we do. But to your point, like if we had seen shots of them like driving together, or maybe they're in some field and they're sitting holding hands, like just shots, not even speaking, that would tell us, oh shit, these two people are in love. And by the context of history and the time period, we would go, damn, to a black man, a black woman, and a white man, they're gonna have issues.
I think he's Jewish.
He is
right?
Jewish, yeah.
He's Jewish. So I think even that, it's such a throwaway when it's mentioned,
because it's not purposeful in this significant.
But considering the time period, okay, this dude is like, I'm going to fight in World War II, like, and they mention Hitler a few times, and again, it's very throwaway. It's like, oh, you know, Hitler, that guy. It's like, no, like. What do y'all know what's happening? Like, and also even he like picks her up at school, and there's some like white girls, they're like, we're mad that you're picking up this black girl at school, and it feels so like no stakes, low stakes, and I'm like, wouldn't y'all be like, she be like killed or something?
There's
Like,
danger around it. Yes.
there's no danger. He's like, come hop in my car. And they're like, like just driving around. Like, it's just so.
Wait, and like that is exactly one of my critiques of the score. Just feels like it is like a TGIF sitcom. It feels like now the strings
Yeah.
are coming in, and now we get, I use this term a lot, but now we get the allegory, and
Yeah.
everyone has changed, but they're better. You know, it's very.
Yes.
So, like Fran was saying, the first part of this film is about these two star-crossed lovers. They're black and Jewish, who the world won't let be together. Then Abram dies, and Lena's purpose in life is just to find him. We don't know why what she wants to do with her life. The film never really addresses beyond Abram what she wants for herself. Again, we're getting to the fix here, but I mean, I will say this: there are multiple conversations that her mother and this mysterious woman Susie, who lives
Another
in the
black
house,
lady who lives with her. Who is she? We don't know.
they never mentioned who this is. They do keep talking about wanting to send Lena off to college, but not being able to afford it. But Abram, her deceased lover, is the only thing that seems to keep driving Lena's character, which I don't. I
And
have questions about.
yeah, and here's the truth of it is while Abram was a real person who died earlier in his combat service, the actual Lena Darracott was not in love with him, nor was she waiting for his return. So in a story about Black women's contribution to World War II, why are we centering a love story with a white man that wasn't really accurate? I know, because Tyler Perry was involved, and that's what he lets his secret sauce. When there's actually so much that is true, that's where you choose to get creative. And you know, again, I'm gonna really get out of my comfort zone here
Mm.
because I also know, as someone who is in the process of trying to fucking sell a movie right now, the studio loves to come in there and be like, where can we get, you know, like, and so that has given me a little bit more sympathy in the
Sure.
sense, and even if you are Tyler Perry, okay, even if you are at that level, studios love to be like, yeah, but no one's going to watch this if there's no love story. There has to be a love story. You know what I mean? Like, and to be fair, she has a love story with somebody else later
Right.
on, but like, you know, it's up in the stakes or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe that's where this came from.
Well,
But
and like you said, like this, Tyler Perry is no stranger to the process to entertainment, obviously, right? So he knows what distribution is, and he knows what it takes to get distributed, and so he's worked with Netflix before, right? So if
yeah.
he's already has some kind of he's shopping it around, or if Netflix kind of approached him about it, who knows what the process was.
Yeah.
To your point, he probably was, you know what, let me just put this in here so I know that we
I'm
can get the movie sold.
I truly, Delon, I feel like I have these new lenses on when I'm watching movies. And that's not to say I can't still be critical of them, but sometimes I have these moments where I'm like, was that in the script or was it different before the studio came in and meddled? Did they make that
Mm,
choice just for the purpose of, you know, getting it on screen? And something recently came out about Netflix that they have been pushing this idea of second screen, meaning really overwriting things because they understand that a lot of people watching are fucking looking at their phones. And so
wow.
they are instructing writers to write in a way where you can half listen. And so
What?
yeah, they're calling it second screen. And I have heard this from other writers, but then I saw an article about it recently and I was like, motherfuck. Because sometimes I'm listening and I'm like, why are they talking like this? Like they're just talking in a way that doesn't feel natural. And
Is
it's
it that they're repeating the dialogue or something? I mean,
they're
not to put
just
you on the
speaking.
spot, but
No, it's not that they're repeating the dialogue. It's just that they're not leaving things up to inference. Like they're just speaking in a
mm,
way. I think a few episodes ago I said like the lines feel bald
uh-huh,
is the way that
yes.
I have described it or heard it described in writers' rooms. And I after hearing about it from another writer friend and then I saw this article, I feel like I'm just noticing it more where things are written in a way or they're just talking in a way that just feels a little too direct.
Yeah, I hear you.
They're just so direct and it
Yeah.
feels clunky.
Yes.
And again, don't get me wrong, I be looking at that phone. I do be looking at that phone,
Girl, I know you
but
do.
I mean, then sometimes I'm taking notes, sometimes I'm like looking things up, but I'm also just I don't know. You know, again,
I listen,
not
I also want to say, let me tell on myself. I talk about these movies. This season we're talking all about movies, and these movies, none of them have been under 2 hours that we've watched so
There,
far.
I
And
split this up in
so
two
I grab
days.
my phone and I usually text yo ass,
Yes.
or I look something up. To your point, right?
I
So it's
texted you in the first 10 minutes to be like, God damn. But I
you
also
sure
split it up
did.
over 2 days. I split it up because I was just like, this is long.
Epic,
It's not
yeah,
keeping my attention. And if a movie is long and it feels earned, that's different versus
yes.
all of this fluff that I'm like, I don't understand why we have these things. So look, the real Lena Dericourt had some interesting things about her that we don't actually get to see in the film.
Hmm.
She went to nursing school and was transferred to an Iowa base in Iowa. She was transferred to an army base in Iowa, where she met and married her husband before she enlisted in the 6th AAA battalion. And that would have been a very interesting part of her life to include, but if he's not a white guy, maybe they
Wow.
didn't.
Especially because she's the main character. She's like the
Yeah.
lead, right?
Hmm.
So let's just unpack some of the things we liked about the film before we get into what we didn't like and the fix and everything. What do you think worked in the film for you, Fran?
Okay, so I looked this up because I was so curious to see if Tyler had written this by himself. He did co-write this film. Sorry, white guy, I can't remember your name, but I wonder if who wrote the second half of the film, because the second
Hmm.
half of the film was a lot
It
better. Like
was.
once it got to the male part of it,
Yes.
it really picked up and it was
Yes.
so interesting. There was so much interesting stuff in there. And even at the very end of the film, they showed like some actual historical footage. I
Yes.
wish we had seen that earlier. I
Yes.
every time there's a historical film, it kind of feels obligatory that we're going to see like who the real people were in
Yeah.
the credits or whatever. I'm getting to the fix a little bit. How cool would it have been to see that earlier? I mean, just
Yes.
because there's so much of this that's unbelievable, where you're like, they
Yeah.
got to be fudging some of this, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, this is real. So I thought that getting to see that was really really cool, and the actual real women was really cool. Um, I thought the costumes were great.
Why were we are so the same? When I was taking notes as I was watching it, I was like, well, the costumes are good.
The
I
costumes
thought
were
those were
great.
really accurate. And when you see, to your point, when you see the footage at the end, you're like, oh, whoever did that
Oh,
did a good job.
the costumes were spot fucking on.
Those weird dumb hats,
Yeah, and they're
oversized hats that they had to wear.
and why you got the brown girls in brown? I mean,
Oh,
just
girl,
not a flattering color.
right.
I did think like when they had like the dance scene, I loved that scene. I thought that was really fun.
Interesting.
Oh,
The
you hated
musical
that
theater
scene?
person for me was like, why are we in a musical all of a sudden? Because it was too perfect. It was too perfect, and it was like
Yes.
we're dropped into another world. And I wish that either we fixing it right. I wish that we either went to another world in someone's imagination, or like their viewing of it,
Mm,
and or like
mm.
create actual conflict in that scene.
Yeah,
What
there was
happens in
no
that scene?
yes, this was another example of a scene on its face value. I had fun in the scene because I liked seeing the girls dance and I
Yeah.
felt like I liked seeing the girls in like a more jovial spirit, because I feel like so much of the film is them like going through basic training and scowling, and this is really difficult. Blah, blah, blah. Like they're
Hmm.
just, I just felt like I got to see a different side of them, which I enjoyed. I'm sorry, I'm reaching here. Please tell me what you liked, what worked well for you in
You
the
know what I
film.
did like? Just I'll start with that scene because I forgot about this. This is like the music lover in me. I'm sure that they were just acting, but I
Hmm.
loved seeing the all female, all black band in
Oh,
that scene playing. They
killing it.
started with them. I was like, yes, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some other things I like that the plot points, once we did some fact checking, they really aligned with the real events. That I was like, okay, it just like kind of upped the credibility of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave Tyler and now his co-writer a lot more credit than I had at the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned something. I really learned about these women, which we said at the beginning. It's crazy that I didn't know about this, right? One of the other things that I really enjoyed was the film shares this historical fact at the end that I feel like, is an advent of post 2020 Black Lives Matter, George Floyd. In 2023 class, Fort Lee, which was named for Civil War Confederate General, I think Robert E. Lee, it was
Mhm.
renamed to Fort Greg Adams after Colonel Charity Adams, she
Oh,
became a colonel.
wow.
She was a major when the film started, but she eventually became a colonel. And she was leader of the 688, and another Black U.S. Army pioneer who was Lieutenant General Arthur Gregg. Adams is currently the only female soldier to be honored in this way, which I thought
That
it was really
is
beautiful.
incredible. I pulled this up because I do feel bad that we haven't mentioned him, but the other co-writer of the film's name is Kevin Heimel. So shout out to Kevin Heimel. I'm preemptively crediting you for the second half of the film because I feel like that's where it got better.
Right.
Um, Dylan, did you have any favorite moments?
Um, though it wasn't historically accurate, I really love the montage of the woman. I mean, I love a montage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I call it the pretty woman, right? It's like you're
The fun
trying on
and
all the clothes.
games. Yeah.
Yes. Fun and games. Totally. That's a reference to Save the Cat, which we've mentioned in prior episode. It's a great film and TV writing book class. But the women were cleaning up and beautifying the King Edward School, which is where the 6888 was housed in England when they went over to do it. And it was just like an example, again, Tyler Perry and Kevin Heimel, they set up this like rundown school where that's
Right.
unlivable with vermin and rats and
Mm-hmm.
furniture everywhere. And
And
the
it's
women,
cold.
it's
Yeah.
cold, and the women have to like just make it livable. And it's just an example of perseverance. And I was like, look at Black women. Look at Black
Yeah.
women. I
Oh,
just really, really dug that part of it. Did you have any? What did you have a moment that you were like, this is my moment?
favorite moments. I will say when they started discovering how to categorize the mail,
Their system, yeah.
I really loved that. Like, that was just so inspiring and eye opening. And to your point about Black women, I won't go down the rabbit hole here, but like, as we know, Black women are the most disrespected
Mm.
historically and in this current present moment. And I was watching the film like, of course some fucking Black women will get this shit together.
Talk
They
about
said, oh,
it.
let's give it to these negresses. They're not gonna figure it out. And they said, bitch, you know what we will do?
Right.
That. And like
Right.
that was really fucking
Working
cool.
24 hours a day, yo.
And coming up with all these cool like little shifts and being like, okay, well, we'll have somebody who really knows garmentry really well, and she's going to look at the fabric and figure out where it's
Crazy.
from, and figuring out about the perfume and like where was the perfume. You open the mail and you smell the perfume, and they figure out, well, where was that perfume from, and then they go try like, what? Like, how did you guys figure this stuff out? Like, I thought stuff was really, really fascinating. I'll also say, I liked Susan Sarandon as Eleanor Roosevelt. I thought that was good casting.
I thought it was
She
good
had
casting. I'm
her
mad
mouth.
about those teeth though.
I mean, I think that was accurate because every picture I see of Eleanor, she's got them choppers.
Listen, this was the pre-braces world, but yeah, those
Yeah,
teeth were
but that's what
they
her
just a
teeth.
little Halloweeny to me. I was like, okay.
That's what Eleanor Roosevelt's teeth looked
You know what? And it
like.
probably dropped Susan Sarandon right in and made her feel like I
I
am
mean,
Eleanor.
listen, I mean, look, I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna push ahead. Can we move to some of our least favorite? Because it's
Oh
kind of
yes.
related.
Well, the wigs,
Carrie,
girl.
Carrie, you and them teeth, Carrie. The teeth.
Wait.
Why is she always acting with her mouth and teeth?
I think maybe her teeth are just a little big for her mouth.
I don't understand it. It's very distracting at times. I'll
Mm.
also say the southern accents. The
Oh,
southern accents
horrible.
they were all over the place. I honestly, and I get it, they were going for historical accuracy, I guess. I would have rather nobody do an accent.
Heard.
I would have
Same.
rather everybody just, it's a movie. We know, the same way like when films go to other parts of the world and everybody's speaking English in the movie, like
Mm-hmm.
we know that everyone's not actually speaking English in that country.
You're right.
Similarly, I didn't need everybody to have an accent because some of them were like Elmer Fudd. I just like, what
Girl.
are you? It was just too much.
It was very weird. I agree wholeheartedly, and not to take not to take anything away from if they had a dialect coach,
Mm-hmm.
but they needed more time for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my one of my, like I said a little bit earlier, was like the wigs were a crime. Like, why are the wigs always so bad in his movies? Did you see Oprah's wig?
Oh yeah, but here,
Oh,
okay. Well, you're right, but also part of me is like, is were they trying to make it? And this is hard because it's Tyler Perry. Like that time period, I'm sure was not known for great wigs. Like, do you think everybody was giving you natural hair, or like, I don't know, was
I
like
don't.
I
I
couldn't
mean, I
tell.
don't think. Listen, looking at the main characters that we see in wigs, right? All
Hmm.
of the black women in the battalion.
Carrie's was terrible.
Well, see, that's Carrie's was terrible.
Yeah,
Lena's was terrible. The woman who
yeah.
plays Johnny May was terrible. It's just like they look like like the synthetic things that are out of some, like, theater summer stock
Hmm.
bargain bin. And it's
Yeah.
like it's not so much like we know the difference between a lace front and, like, what do you
Hmm.
call the opposite of a lace front that has like a hard, like, that
I
covers
don't
the
know
hairline?
what they call that one. I
But
don't know.
anyway, a lace front is like obviously expensive and a little more time. A shake and go. You can just
Hmm.
pop that on your head and go.
Yeah, I think the other one's
You
a
know,
shake and go. It comes out a little
they were
bag.
all shake and goes,
They
and
were
it was
all need to go. Just go.
for real. So like that was a little disappointing to me. The For a movie about women, it also didn't pass the Bechtel test for me. There were
Mm.
times where the Bechtel test class, if you don't know, is Alison Bechtel created this test for media, where the question is, do two women in a piece of media talk to one another but not talk about men? Because
Yes.
oftentimes two women are discussing something with men,
Just
and I,
talking
I
about men.
I
Yeah.
didn't find that it passed the Bechtel test.
Yeah, there were
Um,
a number of scenes where, and again, like on the one hand, I get it, especially because we are talking about this time period, that this is a very gendered experience, as women aren't, normally in the armed services.
sure.
And so like I get that. But to your point about, okay, we can have two women talk about something that's not men. There is a scene where they're in the barracks and they're just kind of having this discussion about like, why did you come, and like, this was, why did you come to the armed services? And it was like a really great opportunity to learn something about these women,
Mm,
and we didn't learn anything about them. Like
yeah.
every single person had something very surface level to say, or something about a man, and it just was like, and then it was kind of like, well, what was the point of this scene?
Right.
Because the scene happened, and all like there was no conflict in the scene, there was no raising of the stakes, it was just everybody being like, well, my boyfriend, my husband, my man, I want to meet, and it's just like, okay,
Right. And to your
whatever.
point, like, about character development, but like really good writing is not only character developing, but also plot forwarding. Right. And so,
Yes.
like, the idea that, like, to your point, you have an opportunity to let us know more about the characters and have us invest, have
Have us
stakes,
care, have us
have us
care about
care about
them.
them, so that when things happen to them in the story, we actually feel something, right? We're not
Yeah.
like kind of distant viewers. We're in the story in some way, in a different way.
Yeah, I think this, and I'm going to blame Tyler for this because he has a habit of this in a lot of his scripts. It was a lot of show not tell. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people telling us about things that happen instead of showing us. Like even as simple as Homegirl says that Lena keeps saying Abram's name in her sleep.
Girl.
Could you show us that instead of being like, you said his name again last night, girl? I heard you talk about it. Like,
She says it
why
like
are
three different times.
just show her
And
do,
Fran,
or show us her dreaming about, like, go into a dream and show them together.
thank
And
you.
I mean, they had one moment where like he shows up and she's in, like, I don't know, like
That's another
sh-
moment I hated. He comes
right,
to
well
her
it,
when she's distressed. Like, there was and basic
yes,
training. They had like a
yes,
gas thing. They were going through some
hmm,
gas training, and she fails. But then he comes to
right.
her and helps her
And
get
that
through
could
it.
have been interesting if it was fucking consistent, but it was
Sure.
just one time.
Well, they did. They were on the boat going to England, and she was scared, and he popped up and did come to her there. But
Yeah, but it's also strange. Again, I think because we saw so little of them together at the beginning,
mm.
when he pops up, I'm like, who that? Oh, right. That's
Oh,
him.
Abram,
Okay. Yeah,
great.
I kind of remember.
To your point, I just to
Pull that
knit
thread.
pull that thread, knit the sweater a little bit even more about like show not tell. To your point, if she's having a nightmare and she's yelling Abram's name, all you
Mm-hmm.
have to do is show old girl Johnny May looking over, or old girl
Mm-hmm.
Johnny May like calming her down. That's all you need,
Mm-hmm.
and have her mention it later, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that subtle, and you could have saved some damn screen time.
Yeah, and also just gotten a chance for us to see a little bit more of who these girls are, and it
Right.
just again we just I and who knows, may again I'm trying to be gracious here, like maybe that did happen and it got cut. It was just hard, especially because later on we have so many dramatic moments, like for example, there's a truck explosion and two of the girls die, and it's when it happened it was like shocking to me. I was like, whoa, didn't expect that, but it didn't pull at my heartstrings because I
At
was like, I
all.
don't know those girls, like
I
I
don't,
don't know,
no
I don't
stake
know
in them.
anything about
What are their
them.
names?
I
Right.
didn't know who they were. And again, don't kill off Lena because she's a big character, but like if it had been her, I would have been like, oh shit. But it's, at the same time, I still didn't really know that much about her.
Right.
Like,
Were there any standout performances for you?
I forget what her name was, but she was Carrie's like sidekick at some
Oh, I
point.
loved her
I
too.
really liked her. She didn't have many lines. I don't remember her name, but I've seen her in other things and I thought she was great. Uh, I mean, like I said, I liked Susan Sarandon, but I think maybe that could be I have like a little teeth blindness, and I feel like the teeth were really, really helping her
Right.
sell it for me. What about you?
I didn't think Kerry Washington did a bad job. I just thought she was kind of dealt a bad hand. I just felt like she was like yelling at the screen in a bad Southern accent for most of the film. But I think she's a good actress. Like she really,
I think she got better. I think she got like and I think you're right. Like she was dealt a bad hand in that like she didn't really have anywhere to go. Like she
right.
was this mean, hard nosed, sergeant, and then she kind of has a turn and towards the later half of the film. I just,
But
I
we
just had
also,
didn't
sorry.
care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
sorry.
we also know. Sorry, I interrupted you. I think the theme that we're talking about is like we didn't know why she loved the army so
And
much.
how the hell did she fucking get there?
Talk about it. Talk about it. We had no investment in who she is, so all the things that she's fighting for were like, okay, well, you kind of just seem like a bitch sometimes. I know it's the
Yeah.
army, but like you just kind of seem mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then because of that, again, we needed our save the cat moment because we see her be so mean to the girls and then later on, she's dealing with racism and sexism from her higher ups.
Right.
And I we're supposed to feel for her, and I of course do feel for her as a black woman, but I
Mm,
also just wanted to like know a little bit more about like why she really, like it's not this, but like is she really patriotic? Does she really think that if they prove themselves that this will help advance the civil rights movement, and
yes.
that if we really serve our country, they have to see us as Americans. I don't know, but like
Yes.
something like that, just even it doesn't even have to be like a big drawn out scene. It's like the moment between, she's yelling at the girls and she says to them like, do you understand? This isn't just about World War II. This is about showing America that we are just as good
Mm,
as them and they need like something. And then I'd be
yes.
like, I mean, I don't agree with her, but like I can see how you got there, you know?
Right, right. I hear you. What did you think? This is a bit leading, but what did you think about the historical accuracy around like the overt and kind of blatant racism? I really thought it was heavy-handed, despite like the
Yeah.
context of the army, the context of America being
Yeah, you
racism.
said that you felt it was heavy-handed. I don't know. I didn't think it was heavy-handed. I thought it was fine. It felt accurate to me. Again, I think the thing that I was missing was like really getting to know these women in a way where like when those moments happened that I would be like enraged along with them. And again, I was in the sense of like fuck this sucks, but like to me it just kind of felt like, yeah, I could buy this. Like this feels like what happened, you know?
Yeah, I hear you, and I think now that I'm speaking kind of out loud in response, because I think my feeling like it was heavy-handed had something to
Mm-hmm.
do with the fact that we know racism. We
Right.
know it's blatant, but like I also know that it's subtle. I know that it's
Mm-hmm.
systemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess there was a power structure, but it just seemed like it was racism for the sake of racism in terms of moving or creating context for the story. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about it was less about like these characters surmounting it, right?
Right.
So one of the
Right.
other things I thought about was that this film, have you seen Men of Honor
I
starring Cuba Gooding
haven't.
Jr.?
I
Man,
haven't.
in my house we grew up on this damn film. Oof. Oh
Really?
my god! So it stars Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro, and it's about one of the first master divers in the Navy. So master divers, I can't remember what era this was in, but master divers were people who get into the entire suit and they dive into the water to usually save some kind of equipment or save submarine men who are like go down underwater for submarines and submarine accidents. So they're like paramedics for the water, right? Ostensibly, if I could
Mm.
put a anyway. So it's Cuba Gooding Jr. dealing with Robert De Niro, who is above him, and Robert De Niro is racist, but they come from a similar place in terms of their economic background. How these two men not only bond, but how Robert De Niro's character changes and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character surmounts the racism, right? So the racism
Mm-hmm.
is used to keep him in a place, and you see him over and over and over again having to surmount it, having to be the best. And Robert
Mm-hmm.
De Niro's character just giving it to him, giving it to him, giving it to him. But you realize it's not only the systemicness of it, but it's also like you see Robert De Niro's character change because he sees this guy who is not giving up, who is the fucking best. And
Yeah.
so like that, though it's more than racism, it's racism used to
Mm-hmm.
as a change agent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm looking for the hope part of it, just not like context in the background. This just kind of was like, yeah, well, this general is saying like, oh, you're women, oh, you're black, you can't do it. Move on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I didn't see the general. There was this general named General Holt, I guess, in the
Mm-hmm.
story class, and General Holt was not only gave the 6888 this task with the 17 million pieces of mail that he didn't think they could complete, but he also didn't give them resources and we're like, y'all have to
Right.
live in this broke down ass school or whatever. If we saw General Holt, I guess there might have been one like look to the camera, but if we see
There was
General
like
Holt,
one. He was like, okay,
totally, like, maybe. But if we'd seen him change, I would have been like, oh, okay,
yeah.
it's used differently. I know that's not how racism works, but
I guess they tried to do that at the end when they're leaving the train station and somebody's like, "Hey, are y'all
you're
the six
right.
triple eight?" And they're like, "Yes." And I'm like, well, "Great job!" And then they start
They start,
clapping, and you're like,
yeah,
"Okay, I guess they like you now." Like, I think that
yeah,
was
you're
them.
right. There was
That was
that,
them
right?
trying to do
Sure.
that. I think because it's like we're never going to acknowledge you again. This is the most you're going to get. We're going to
First and
clap for you
last.
now, and then exactly when y'all are at 100 years old, then we'll say something to y'all.
Jeepers creepers. Was there anything that surprised you?
I mean, the true storiness of it, just the whole conceit was really eye opening to me. And I gotta be honest, it also frustrated me because I'm like, God damn, why is it that in 2025 we are still having untold Black
Crazy.
stories?
Crazy.
And it just made me think about the circumstances of our current world where they are literally trying to, or they are dismantling Black history programs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's already so much that isn't common knowledge and they're just trying to get rid of it. Like that really, I just think of myself as like a very learned, well-read person, and I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know about
I
this. Like
know.
that, that was wild to me. um and again, I will also say, like, kind of like we talked about this with another film recently, I didn't hate it. I mean, it wasn't great. It was just fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by the end that I got emotional. I
Yes.
really did, and
Same.
I think it was, again, my own personal life, what's happening in the world, and just the recognition of like, damn, if you want something done right, Black women will fucking come through, and we will we
But they
will
always
get
trying
this
to
shit
put y'all
together.
motherfuckers on the front line. I tell you
They
what.
really, they really, really do. And I was just like, wow, like man, like the way we are disrespected, but like we still fucking pull it together is heartbreaking. It's inspiring. It's beautiful, but it's also like, God damn, like when do we get a fucking
When
break?
do you get a fucking break, yo?
What
For
surprised
real.
you?
Similar to yourself, similar to yourself.
I mean, that
I
I think
guess it works.
that works.
It's too many words. Similar to
Okay, okay.
you.
Yeah.
um, I didn't hate it, and I kind of went in thinking I was like, ugh, here we go.
I think that's
But
the subtitle of our movie season. I didn't hate
I didn't.
it. I mean, we've hated some of these, but nothing's really been like, oh wow, that was good. It's like, wow, I didn't hate it.
Well, in class, I promise there will be at least one or two that we love. I promise.
We gotta get some good
We will
ones in
get
here,
within it.
please.
The other thing that really kind of, which started my emotional end of watching the film, that really got my heartstrings. You talked about the footage of like Charity Adams and all of the soldiers, but
Yeah.
they ran the names of all of the women in the 688, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
over 800 names. I was like, holy shit, when you see them on mass. But the other thing that was crazy was like, you see like these old timey names and how often people name people the same thing and from different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
There were all these Hatties and Dollies
Mm-hmm.
and Coras and Gladys Mays and Hazels. And I was like, oh shit. I rewound it again to watch it again. I was like, damn, that's a lot of these old timey names. It was kind of nice to see the history there.
That is so funny. Yeah, there's definitely generational names because I think I know like one Hazel, but it's like my mom's friend. Like I don't think I've met a Hazel our age or like a
No.
Hattie. A Hattie?
Hattie Mae.
No. And here's what I also think about because I associate these names with older people, it's hard for me to think of like a baby named Hattie.
I
Like Hattie
know.
is somebody's grandma. That's not a child.
Well,
But a Hattie had to be a child at some point.
right. I also think about like, because when we were young, there were a lot of like Barbaras who were older from my mom's generation. But like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine naming a baby Barbara. That just
Well,
seems like such an old.
I think if your name's Barbara, you're Barbie as a kid.
Oh, I did know a Barbie growing up. Yeah,
Yeah,
or
you're
in
Barbie.
college.
And then as an adult, you're Barb. You know, you're
Oh,
Barb in the
Barb.
office.
That seems like a Midwest mom, Barb.
Yeah, you work at a front desk somewhere, you know? You look like Peggy Bundy.
Oh,
Like, yeah.
1000%. Yeah.
All right, now that we've gone over the now that we've gone over the 6888, it's time for us to fix it. Dawn, is it okay if I go first?
Hattie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So something that I really kept thinking about, this idea of like the love story, and at the very beginning of the film, we do see some like letters that get stained with blood and
Mm-hmm.
that don't get to people, and I think they were trying to, and I went in blind. I didn't know what the film was about. So when I
Me
was watching
either.
that, I was like, why are they showing this to us? I don't get it. And then later on, I was like, oh, okay, that was one of the bloody letters. But again, we're like halfway through the
It
film
takes
before
so long.
that connection happens. So I'm thinking, what if, because Lena and Abram are star-crossed lovers, the time period, he's Jewish, she's black, they're not supposed to be together. What if instead of being together, they write each other love letters and they pass little notes to each other, and that's how they communicate. And so we learn about, they live in the same town or whatever, but the only way that they're able to share their love is through these letters.
I love that.
And then when he goes off to war, the fact that he stops writing is very arresting to her, because she's like, he wouldn't do that. He really, you know what I mean? And so maybe she doesn't know that he's died, right? Because it happens again so fast. Maybe he does get one letter to her, and again, we get to see their love story through the letters. Maybe he talks about times they've snuck away, or how much he wishes he could kiss her, and in the letter we get to see them kissing or whatever, like really build up that love story. So then we understand why she wants to go. Maybe she really does think she might run into him out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will drive home when they get this letter thing as their mission. why she suddenly realizes, oh my God, he probably has been writing to, it just would up the stakes. You know what
Love
I
that,
mean?
Fran.
It would just,
Absolutely.
she would just be way more invested and it would pull the pieces together. And I just, in my mind, could see all of these beautiful montages where, and you love a montage,
Mhm.
where she's envisioning her letter reaching him and what it's like and what the letter, what the journey of the letter is. And then she gets the reality of, they open that giant thing and she's like, holy fuck, the letters are all sitting in there. Like, it would just make it, I think it would just have made it land a little bit more for me.
I love that. To add on to that, as we always do, I can see when they're in school and they're just writing notes back and forth. What if they,
Yeah.
because it's kind of forbidden, right? Because
Hmm.
of the race thing, they're in Pennsylvania, but still America, right? In the 40s. What if they have like a little notch in a tree that he carved out that they put
I
notes
love
in
that.
back and forth? And then when he goes to war, they enlist somebody like, I don't know, a store shop owner who's like sensitive to them. So
Hmm.
like she's still getting letters, right? And to your
Yeah.
point, if she's waiting for letters, and let's say she automatically gets 5 letters, and then she reads them, and she's like, "Oh my God, he's been writing to me this whole time." And then somehow, I don't know, she hears about the backlogged letters, and she goes, "Well, I want to help those people," and that gives her
Yeah.
more motivation to actually enlist because we never really beyond like I don't again. Does she want to find
It's
him?
it's
Why does
not
she
clear.
enlist? You know?
It's not clear. It's not clear. And I think you're right in the sense of like, I want to help. There's something about, this 18-year-old kid that just goes, I'll do it. It's like, girl, what are you talking? Like, you're not, there's no way. But then it's like the amazing thing of like, she really does fucking do it. And it's
Yeah.
like the thing of like, I'm gonna do it. And the reality of how hard it's gonna be and like all of the things that kind
Mm,
of get in the way. I think that would have just been really beautiful to see. The other thing I really would have liked is maybe do, because we're really, well, there is an A story and a B story, but I would have loved Charity to really be a strong B story in the sense that at the same time that Lena's love story is happening at the very beginning of the film, let's meet Charity and let's see
mm,
her rising up the ranks and committing that she wants to lead this battalion or whatever and learning a little bit about her. And then they meet in the middle. And by
yes.
the time they meet in the middle, we start the male storyline. And then we're like,
Yes.
okay, I'm invested in both these characters. I understand how they came together and I'm rooting for both of them.
Yes.
And even like with the friends, like again, this would make the movie long, but I feel like if we had just gotten to see a little bit of their lives before, because when they all come out and they're like, well, I'm a mortician, well, I'm a blah, 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 it's just like very convenient. Like everybody's
Mm.
got a job that helps. Okay. But if we had seen a little bit of them, and I don't know how they could have done
A
that
montage.
a montage, but like even it's just like they're all in the train. They're like, I'm so and so, and I'm you think I'm white, but I'm actually mixed. Well, I'm so and so. Well, don't talk like that. I'm a preacher's daughter, and I don't curse. Like, okay, guys.
Right. Well, and
I
to
could have
your
seen you praying, and that would have fucking told me that you were super religious. You didn't have to fucking say, my dad's a preacher. Don't talk like that. Like,
well, and there was I know like there was this whole storyline that looped in Eleanor Roosevelt where this mother wasn't getting letters. This random mother
yes.
whose name you don't even really hear. You see her
Hmm.
waiting for letters from her sons who are both in the war. And she goes to the White House and she's standing outside in the rain. And then Eleanor Roosevelt realized, like, why is that woman out there? And that compels her
Hmm.
to do something about it, right? But even that was like, I guess it's why couldn't Oprah's character who played Mary Bethune, why couldn't she
Hmm.
just do what actually happened in real life and lobby Eleanor Roosevelt? Like you could have done that in
Yeah.
2 scenes and given, to your point, more airtime and more scene work to the other characters who we spend more time with, right?
Yeah.
And develop their
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, I feel like they tried to do that at the very beginning again with that those early letter scenes, but
Hmm.
because we never saw those people ever again, and it was a bunch of like voiceover, like dear so and
Yeah.
so, dear blah blah
Right,
blah. It was
right.
that. It was just so disconnected that I, as the viewer, in hindsight, I was like, oh, I see what they were doing. But as it was happening, I was like, what is going
I
on? Like, I
completely forgot
don't.
about that.
Yeah, it just felt like an afterthought of sorts. What's your fix?
Yeah, I have a few. Just because I'm like the thing that stuck in my craw is that Lena Darracott really didn't have a motivation beyond Abram to enlist in the army. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see something, and this doesn't pass the Bechdel test either. But like, what if her father was like really a patriot? What if her father? Because we never
Mm.
hear about what happened to her father. We just say her mom and random lady Susie who lives with them says, your husband didn't come back, So like, what if
Yeah.
her father was really a patriot, or he died in, World War II would have been a little bit farther, too far away
World
in
War
terms
One.
of age. Excuse me,
Yeah.
World War One would have been a little bit too far in age to make him
Mm-hmm.
a World War One veteran, but he could have been in the army and had an accident happen to him,
Mm-hmm.
or so I would have loved to have seen her maybe invested in becoming a patriot in another way. And I wonder if a father, familial connection could have helped with that. A brother that went off and served that passed away. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Yeah.
thing that I think is really historical that I thought is a missed opportunity is that these women went to Birmingham, England, and sorted this, mail in 90 days where they were given 6 months. And then they also went to Rome, France, and did the same thing. And in France,
Yeah.
some of that mail was backlogged as far as 3 years. So there's a whole
Wow.
nother, they continue to do it. What challenges did they face in Rhone, France? I would have loved
Mm-hmm.
to have seen that part of it, right? Because my thing is,
Yeah.
fuck the love story. I know it matters, but like I was, to your point, I was interested in the system they created, the
That
world
was
they created, the
fascinating.
work that they did, how they discovered, you know what I mean? That was the interesting
Yeah.
part to me.
Yeah, and I wish that we had seen some of that stuff. And maybe that
Mm,
would have made the film more expensive, but like show me like the pieces coming together and like, all that
mm.
stuff I think would have just been so interesting to see on screen. I think again, like I didn't hate it. I think they had a lot of really good they had all the right ingredients for like a great meal. And
Mm.
then like the meal was just decent. And it was like it's going to be
And you
decent
were
because you
hungry.
had
You sat down and you were hungry.
I really was. And I was just like, man, you had so many great elements here that this
Hmm.
could have been really fit. Like, this should have been Oscar bait. And I think that they thought it
Yes,
was going to
Fran.
be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a historical, it's a little known Black history. There's some big names in it. Susan Sarandon, fucking Oprah,
Sam
Kerry
Waterston.
Washington, Sam. Oh, he's in the movie for 2 goddamn seconds. But like, and even the general, I can't remember his name, the guy
Oh
from Breaking
yeah.
Bad.
Yes.
I mean, I thought he was good. He was kind of doing like a little Helmer, but
Totally.
like, but this should have been a contender. It really
It
should have.
really should have been. It really should. Well, I will say this. It did get an Oscar nomination for best song,
Oh,
Diane Warren. For the song is
oh,
called the song is called
for
Journey. It plays at the end. I couldn't tell you who sings it, but Diane Warren's
her
nominated.
sings it. Her sings it.
Okay, go ahead, her.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the song was fine. It was just, I don't know. I feel like when songs get nominated for films like this, it feels kind of feels like a pity nomination because
Like,
nobody watches the movie and goes, God damn, that song really got me because it's at the very end of the movie.
right.
You don't see who's singing it. It
It's
is
basically as the credits are
descriptive.
rolling. Yeah.
It's as the credits are going. And so it's like, you guys are you just need to fill out the category.
Right. That's 1,000% why. And names, right? Diane Warren is attached to it. And it also it's also marketing, right? It gives the
Right.
film something to say. Literally on Netflix it says Oscar nominee. And I'm like,
It
that's a
does.
misdirect, friends.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, y'all should have given like costumes. I feel like that would have been an easy nom.
Yeah. Are wigs and costumes? Because I have notes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd
Mm.
be so funny during the Oscar noms. They're like costumes, but not the wigs, not the wigs. Like they say.
Literally, except not to beat you to death, whoever did those wigs, but y'all need some.
Oh yeah, they're
That's too
definitely
synthetic.
listening.
Yeah, clearly.
Now it's time for everyone's segment, The Glow Up, where we give props to those who've turned themselves around without our help. But first, let's take a quick break. And we're back. Delon, would you like to go first?
I wouldn't mind at all.
Okay.
So I'm giving mine to like 2 in 1. I'm
Mm.
giving it up to empathy. I know that
Ooh.
seems to be lost in the world, but I think what I teach when I teach acting is empathy, and I think I'm pushing it. And Jane Fonda at the SAG Awards on Sunday,
Oh.
I'm going to read the
Incredible.
quote that she gave because I think it's so valuable and what we need. She said, "Empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means that you give a damn about other people." And it was we need to come from white people. We need to become
Hmm.
from white people that
And
age.
Jane is the motherfucking real deal.
She's
I
the
will also
OG
say,
protester. Okay.
she's been arrested. I got to work with her. I nearly departed. She is incredible. And I'm here for celebrities and white people in this instance, not to give out too many cookies, but like that's what you're supposed to use your privilege for. Like
Yeah.
you have a microphone, you have a stage, and look, it did the job because the quote is being circulated. Everybody's talking about it. It was really, really powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, what it does is like it just reframes that conversation, right?
Hmm.
Half the people who claim woke is a bad thing don't even you ask them what it means, and they have
They
no
don't
fucking
know.
idea. They just think it means black people or
Yes.
marginalized communities,
It's
which
their new N word.
yeah, totally.
Holy,
That
yeah.
and DEI, right?
Hmm.
And trans people like crazy. So yeah, I'm giving it up to empathy because mine is vast, and I know yours is pretty big too.
Yeah.
Some days like mine is a detriment, because I
Yeah.
care so much about what other people need and think and feel. But it's so important, and I'm hoping that it really has a glow up. But Jane put it on Front Street, so I'm giving it up to empathy and Jane Fonda. Go ahead, girl.
Yeah.
What about you? What's yours?
Well, I'm doing something different this week. Instead of a glow up, I'm saying glow on. And
Oh,
I'm saying glow on to Joy Ann Reid. I don't know if you
oh
heard that
shit.
her
Go ahead,
show has
Joy.
been canceled. And I'm saying you gonna glow on, girl. We are
Mm,
Team Joy in this house. And, fuck MSNBC. But I will say, I have been really impressed and inspired by Don Lemon's pivot to social media. He
mm,
now does a daily live stream that is a few hours on YouTube. He's fucking killing it.
really?
And those YouTube checks, I mean, it's not going to be MSNBC money,
Right.
but I could see Joy doing something in that world where she starts her own thing. A lot of journalists are moving to Substack and are
Mm,
charging people. And if you have a sizable audience already, Substack is doing these like incentivized programs where they will pay you to bring your audience over there. And again, it's not going to be network money,
right.
but I think especially in light of like where we are right now with this administration and the way that Trump is going after journalists and everybody's bending the knee, we are going to have to get more creative about independent media sources.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the time for it. And I believe myself and so many other people are going to be behind Joy. This sucks, but she's going to glow on. Her light cannot be dimmed. She has, and the reality is they're fucking scared of her.
That's the
She
part.
always keeps it fucking real.
That's the
She's
part.
not afraid to speak truth to power, whether it's calling out her bosses or calling out the president or calling out misinformation. She is so bold, and they are afraid of
and
her.
and unapologetic, right? When you are bold to
Yes.
use your word and unapologetic and that fucking smart and that
Yes.
are and able to like talk circles around people in terms of like making your point and
Yeah.
debate, yeah, they're scared of her. And one thing I would add is like, I obviously follow Joy on social media, and so whatever the algorithm, however it goes, they show me her content a lot. And
Well, and that's what I mean. She is fucking, and she's
she's
good
been
at
killing
it.
it. She's been killing it
Yes.
on social pre-election, post-election.
Hmm.
She's just been killing it. And so I have no doubt to your point that she's going to glow on. And I can't wait to subscribe to whatever comes next for her.
Yeah.
Because there is space for her. There has to be space for her. It's just also crazy to me that, I'm an MSNBC watcher. I unsubscribed from a lot of my news sources. So I catch
Hmm.
it on TikTok. I catch it on, YouTube sometimes when I'm cooking or whatever. And there aren't black faces on
No.
MSNBC other than Joy. Pause. There's a weekend. I forget what the weekend show is, but they do have Simone Sanders Townsend,
Yes.
and then
Hmm.
they do have Michael Steele, right? So they have a show with Alicia Menendez. It's the three of them. It's called The Weekend, and now they're
Yeah.
moving it. It'll be moving to Joy's slot because I guess their ratings are up. But like in prime time during the week, there was only Joy holding it down.
Yeah.
And so I just like it's not shocking to me, but it's like, oh, this is also part of what's happening in the landscape. That's gonna be
Yeah.
she's gonna be the first one y'all cut off. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah. And again, I know that it's hard, and I know that she's upset about it. And my heart goes out to her, but I will also say that when we look back on this moment, she's going to be one of the people that we are like, you know what? She didn't give a fuck,
Mm,
and she stuck her neck out, and
mm.
history is going to remember her. And if, history is not kind to her the way that she has cemented in Black people's hearts, like that's
Yes.
not going to change. And that's where I know, again, watching this movie, watching how Black women have shown up for me recently, like we fucking got Joy's back. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I don't know what's going to happen, but we got you, girl, and you are going to glow on. So that is my new spin on the glow up.
Glow on, Joy. And speaking of like the history books in writing class, have you seen 6888? Did you know about the story? Because Fran and I were blindsided by this shit. We knew nothing about it. If you did,
Mm.
either way, please get at us on social. You know what they are. But also, if you have a TV show, a celeb, a brand you want us to fix in a future episode, I'll tell you what it is just as a gift. Instagram is at FixItPod, and email us lemmeFixItPod@gmail.com.
Also, don't forget that we have a YouTube channel where you can see our beautiful faces unedited, youtube.com/at FixItPod. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to give us a rating over on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app. I'm Francesca.
And I'm DeLon, and this was
Let me
Lemme
fix
Fix It.
it. Yay.